first thing you need is a pattern. Using a graph and your imagination, draw your image into squares. Woodlands used geometrics, coastal had totems, plains used designs from nature. In order to be able to see how looming is done, I will use large-scale items to replace the traditional ones. A darning needle in place of a beading needle, yarn for thread, and pony beads in place of traditional beads. Once you have a loom, a pattern, beads, thread, needles, and scissors, you're ready to start. All right, today I'm going to explain about looming. Looming is putting beads in a place so that it makes a patch. And there's a few things you need to know about it. You've got to have one of these. You can make them out of wood. It's a rectangle. This is called a loom, and this is what you're going to work with. You've got your thread that we're using, a needle, your beads, and your pattern. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to set up the loom for my pattern. Now my pattern is 26 across, 19 down. The 26 across is what I've got to set up. So you would take your thread, of course we're working with bigger threads, so this is so that you can see. Oh jeez. You take your thread and you attach it to one side of the loom. Now with the bead count that you've got, you know that you have 26 beads that you want to put across, but you've got to remember that there's edges to that. So I usually add 2 threads on each edge just to make sure you've got that end. And then you go around. Tie it to the top. There you go. You can see it. Okay, we've got the string tied on. We're ready to start our first line. The first line is the hardest. So we go from here to our pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 black. So we'll get 2 yellow, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 black, 1, 2, 3, 4 black, 1, 2, 3 yellow, 1, 2, 3 yellow, and 1, 2, 3, 4 black. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can count, double count, triple count, always counting. This is equal to your bottom line. Now to put them in place, you've got to hold them and you've got to push each bead with 1 string on one side and 1 string on the other. The first row is the hardest part, of course. Get this comb out of the way. These beads are big. Okay. So I'm just gonna put the first few through. First line is the hardest. There's the first few. I've got one string on one side and one string on the other. You hold them in place with your hand, and then the thread, yeah, I have two strings because there was an extra one. You put it on top of the beads. You can see the needle coming through. It's on top of the thread, on top of the thread, on top. I'll just pull this one through. See how it's on top? When you pull your thread through, it holds it in place. One on one side and one on the other. Now I'm going to go through the whole line and get my first row into place. Okay. Okay, the hardest was the first line. Now we're going to do the second line. This is how it's going to work all the way through. You work your way up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 beads. 1 yellow, 2 green, 1 yellow. 1 yellow. 2 green, 1 yellow. Okay. Follow the line. 1, 2 black. 1 yellow. 3 green, 1 yellow. 1 yellow. 3 green, 1 yellow. And 3 black. That's the end of your line. Okay, this is your second line. It copies your graph. So then you take these, you put it underneath. Underneath. You line them up with your first row and you just pop them through. There, you see how it's working? It's just lining up. Push them through. Pop them through on this side too. Imagine working with the tiny beads. There, you see? And then you simply hold them in place. And go through the top. Remember to hold your beads up so that the needle shows on top of the thread. On top. When you get to a certain point where your needle hasn't got any more room, you just pull it on through. Keep going. And of course, straighten it out. Let's take a look at it. There it is, you're making your pattern. Now I'm going to do the rest of the rows. They're exactly the same as the first. When you run out of thread, all you do is tie another knot. And you just keep going through, under, over, under, over, under, over, 19 rows. All right, let's complete the pattern. All right, finished. Beautiful. Nice together. And you can see the patterns against each other. Turned out exact. And now for the best part of the whole thing. Cutting it loose. You just go on the other side and cut those threads. There we go. And now we got ourselves a perfect bead pattern. You can use it to put on a jacket, make it into a purse, use it for anything you'd like. These are the strings that you would use to attach it on to any material that you want. And